The desert sky was blood red, and the air smelled of burning rock. No one saw the war coming, not the humans, not the aliens, not even the machines. It started with a crack in the sky. A loud sound tore across the heavens like the roar of a dying star. Moments later, flaming pieces of metal rained down over the dry alien lands of Ulleris-9. Sergeant Max Keller had just stepped out of his survival pod when the sand beneath him trembled. Earth Command, this is Keller. I've landed badly. My ship's gone. I'm alone, he said into his cracked wristcom. Static answered him. The war had already broken the signal web. Keller wiped the blood from his temple. His mission was clear. Search for survivors, avoid hostile alien creatures, and secure a path back to Earth forces. But something deep in the sand didn't want to stay buried. He wasn't alone. Far away, on the same burning planet, a young alien girl was running. Her name was Zara, daughter of the healer caste. Her skin was soft violet, glowing slightly in the heat. Her white hair was tied back, dust clinging to it like a second skin. Her large silver eyes searched the ground as she ran barefoot across the sharp stones. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained for this. But her village had burned, and now she was the last one left, and something was following her. Not soldiers. Not machines. Not even the humans her people had feared. No, this was older. A creature of the deep desert. One that moved like a whisper beneath the sand. Keller found tracks. Not human. Thin toes. Widespread. Light steps. Someone's out here. He muttered. He followed them up a dune, through a narrow stone pass, and into a shallow canyon. That's when he heard it, the sound of movement underground. A wet, squelching sound, followed by a scream that didn't belong to a human. He ran. Zara stumbled on a loose rock and fell hard. The ground underneath her split. Sand rushed in. The rocks cracked open like a mouth, and out came the creature, its body like a giant worm, its mouth a spinning circle of teeth. She screamed. Her legs kicked as the sand pulled her down. The beast swallowed her lower body whole, dragging her in. Her hands dug at the ground. Her voice broke into sobs. She was being eaten alive. Then a blast of sound echoed across the canyon. Boom. The creature roared. It reared back, part of its long body flying out of the sand. Keller had arrived. His plasma rifle glowed hot in his hands. He fired again directly at the creature's neck. It flinched, but it didn't fall. The sand beast turned toward the new threat, eyes non-existent, but rage clear in its movement. It surged at Keller, who rolled out of the way and landed on one knee, rifle steady. Don't die now, he told himself, breathing fast. But then he saw her. Half swallowed, her arms flailing. An alien girl, barely older than 20 in human years, glowing in the sunlight. She was still alive. Hang on, Keller shouted. She couldn't understand his words, but she understood the voice. Help. The creature turned back toward the girl, angry that its meal had been interrupted. Keller needed to act fast. He pulled out 2 plasma grenades and charged forward. The ground beneath him trembled. He didn't care. He threw one grenade at the base of the creature's body, the second right into its open mouth. Boom! The first explosion lifted a cloud of sand. Keller didn't wait. He ran straight to the half-buried girl, grabbed both her hands, and pulled. The suction was powerful. Come on, come on! He growled. She screamed in pain, her waist still trapped inside the slimy throat of the beast. Then boom! The second grenade exploded inside the creature's mouth. A blast of black blood and sand shot out, and the creature collapsed. Dead. Keller fell backward. The girl still in his arms, coughing, shaking, and barely breathing. She looked up at him with wide silver eyes. He looked down at her, panting. Safe now, he said gently. Zara didn't understand the words, but something in his face told her she wasn't going to die today. Not here. Not now. The sun began to fall over the dunes. In the distance, more sand moved. The desert wasn't done with them yet. Asterisk. The desert wind picked up as the twin suns lowered in the sky. Max Keller looked around the canyon, rifle tight in his grip. The alien girl Zara was still lying in the sand, breathing hard, her skin stained with dark creature blood. She was shaking, silent, her eyes locked on the dead monster beside her. Max knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he said softly. Zara didn't reply. Her body was still in shock. She didn't understand his language, but she understood something else: his eyes. He hadn't left her. He had saved her. Keller reached into his side pack and pulled out a water canister. He offered it slowly. "Here, drink." She stared at it for a second before taking it with both trembling hands. Her throat was dry, her lips cracked. The first sip burned going down, but then she drank more. Keller gave her a nod, then stood up and scanned the area. Something was wrong. Sand near the dead creature was moving again, very slightly. Max raised his rifle. No, not again. He walked closer and saw something that made his heart stop. Eggs. Half a dozen of them, buried under the sand. Long, leathery, and warm. Still pulsing. The beast was a mother. Keller cursed under his breath. "This place is a nightmare." He turned and hurried back to Zara. "We've got to move." She looked up at him. Confused. Max pointed to the eggs and made a boom sound with his mouth and hands. Zara's eyes widened. She understood that. Danger. He pulled her up gently. She winced. Her leg was hurt from the creature's teeth. She couldn't walk fast. "Come on, I got you," Keller said. Then lifted her into his arms. She gasped, stiffened, but didn't resist. With the alien girl in his arms and the sun vanishing behind the red mountains, Keller moved quickly through the canyon. They didn't speak the same language, but silence wasn't empty. Zara looked up at him, her eyes still scared, but softer now. She noticed the scar on his jaw, the blood on his arm, the tired look in his eyes. He wasn't a god. He was just a man. But he had risked his life for her, and he carried her like she mattered. By nightfall, they found a small cave carved into the cliffside. Keller set her down gently, then dropped to his knees, breathing hard. "All right. Temporary shelter," he muttered, checking the scanner on his wrist. No signal. Still cut off. He turned to her. "We'll stay here for the night." Zara was watching the stars outside the cave. Her world had changed so fast. Her family was gone. Her village destroyed. Now she was sitting beside a human, something her elders had warned her about. Yet this human had saved her, protected her, given her water. Why? Keller pulled out a small flare and lit it. The soft red glow filled the cave. Zara shifted closer to the warmth. Keller took out a protein ration bar and held it out. She hesitated, then reached for it. Took a bite. Her face twisted. It tasted awful, but she forced herself to eat it. Keller chuckled. "Yeah, not great, but it keeps you alive." She didn't understand the words, but she heard the tone. It was the first time she smiled, just a little. Later that night, as wind howled outside and sand blew across the desert, Keller sat with his back to the cave wall, rifle in hand. Zara lay close to the fire, sleeping lightly, but sleep didn't come easy for Max. His mind kept going back to those eggs. If they hatched. If more of those things came. He needed to get off this rock. Fast. But with no ship, no comms, and no backup, he was stranded. And now he wasn't alone. In her dreams, Zara saw her mother, her voice soft and musical, telling stories of the sand beasts that once protected the land. Then the dream turned dark. Fire, screams, the creature's teeth. She woke up suddenly, sitting Up straight, heart-pounding. Keller looked over. You okay? Zara just stared into the fire, then she pointed to the sky with one finger, drew a symbol with her hand. Max watched her. You're home? She nodded. Then pointed to herself. Drew another symbol. Name? He guessed. She nodded again. He placed his hand on his chest. Max. She looked at him. Then slowly said, Zara. You repeated. She smiled. This time for real. The night passed slowly. When morning came, the suns rose fast. The heat returned. Keller stood at the cave entrance, shielding his eyes. In the distance, something shimmered. He pulled out his binoculars. A structure, half buried in the sand. Metal. Old. Maybe human. Or alien. Either way, it might have supplies. Or answers. He looked back at Zara. She was already watching him. He pointed to the shape in the distance. Let's go, he said. And together they stepped out into the rising sun, heading toward the secret buried beneath the sands. The heat returned like a hammer. Waves of hot air shimmered above the sand as Max, Keller, and Zara pushed forward, step by slow step. Max's boots sank into the dust with each move. Zara, limping but determined, kept pace beside him. They had walked for over an hour, moving toward the strange shape they had seen from the cave. Now it was clearer. Half buried in the sand, like a skeleton from a lost age, was a structure made of dark metal. It didn't look like anything native to the planet. Smooth, angular edges, rusted doors, faded markings. Keller's eyes narrowed. Earth tech. Zara looked at the large metal object with curiosity and fear. Her people avoided such places. Ancient ruins filled with angry spirits, they said. But Max walked closer, scanning the area with his rifle ready. This could save us, he muttered. The door was half open. Sand filled the entrance. Keller climbed over it, motioned for Zara to stay close. Inside, it was cool or quiet, except for the sound of sand sliding from above. They entered a long hallway. Lights flickered weakly on the ceiling. Most were dead. This is an old recon outpost, Keller said, more to himself than her. Could be 50 years old, maybe more. He moved slowly, checking every room. Most were empty, broken chairs, crushed panels, torn wires. But then they reached a sealed door with faded letters. Supply ROM Alpha 2. Max smiled. Come on, baby. He pulled out his multi-tool and worked the lock. A click. The door opened with a loud metal groan. Inside were shelves of emergency gear, sealed food rations, water packs, and a dusty medkit. Jackpot. Zara looked at the supplies, unsure what to make of them. Max handed her a sealed water pouch. She opened it slowly, sniffed it, then drank. Then he grabbed the medkit and knelt beside her. Let me see that leg. She froze. Max gently pointed at her wound, still wrapped in part of his torn shirt. It was swollen and red. He made a soft expression. I'm not going to hurt you. Slowly, she nodded. He unwrapped the cloth and cleaned the wound, using antiseptic foam. Zara winced but didn't pull away. Then he sprayed a healing sealant over the bite marks. She looked down in surprise as the pain began to ease. He gave her a thumbs up. Good as new. She smiled faintly. After resting for a while and eating more ration bars, Zara still hated the taste. They explored deeper into the outpost. They found a broken command center. One of the old screens still flickered. Max pulled out his wrist link and connected it. Come on. Show me something. A map blinked to life. It showed the region, miles of desert, canyons, and one glowing signal far to the west. Could be a working comms tower, Max said. He looked at Zara. If I reach that, I can call for extraction. She didn't understand, but she felt the tension in his voice. Then the screen flickered again. Another red icon blinked. It was moving fast. Coming their way. Max stared. No, not now. He zoomed in. Multiple heat signatures. Big ones. Sand creatures. He turned to Zara. We need to go. Now. They packed what they could water, food, med kit, and left the station fast. As they climbed out into the sunlight again, Max looked back. The ground around the outpost was shaking lightly. The creatures were close. Too close. They ran. Zara was faster now with her leg healed, though still limping. Max led the way across the dunes, heading toward the rocky cliffs in the distance. Behind them, the sand began to rise like waves in the ocean. One of the beasts burst out behind them, larger than the first. Its body was dark brown with jagged horns. Its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of spinning teeth. Zara screamed. Max fired a shot at it, then another, trying to slow it down. Keep going, he shouted. They raced up a dune. At the top, Max spotted an old shuttle wing sticking out of the sand, forming a kind of archway. Under there, he yelled. They dove beneath it just as the creature smashed through the top of the dune, roaring in rage. But it couldn't follow them under the metal. It circled, sniffing, waiting inside the metal shelter. The heat was intense, but they were alive. Max was breathing hard, sweat dripping from his neck. He looked over at Zara, her face covered in dust, eyes wild with fear. We can't stay here long, he whispered. We have to keep moving. At night. She nodded slowly. Then she pointed again, this time to the west. The same direction as the signal. Max blinked. You know what's out there? She thought for a second, then drew a shape in the dust. A tall spire. Lights? Tower? Max guessed. She nodded. He smiled. Then we're thinking the same thing. As the sun set once more, the two prepared to travel under cover of night. They didn't trust the sand anymore. But together, human and alien, they had one goal: survive long enough to reach the signal and leave this cursed desert behind. Asterisk. The stars above Alaris 9 were cold and sharp, shining like tiny knives in the dark sky. Max Keller stepped carefully across the sand, eyes locked on the horizon. The wind had died down, but the desert was far from silent. He could feel the ground shift slightly beneath each step. Behind him, Zara followed closely. She walked with a limp, but her pace was strong. She trusted Max now, not just because he saved her, but because she had no one else. Ahead, a series of jagged rocks stretched across the desert floor like broken teeth. The signal from the old map pointed beyond them toward the far cliffs. But to reach it, they had to pass through the shifting zone. A place Zara had only heard of in whispers. A place where the sand itself was alive. Keep low, Max said in a hushed voice. And stay quiet. He used his knife to draw a zigzag trail on the sand paths where the creatures had been seen before, according to the old station's data. He hoped it was still accurate. Zara watched him, then took a handful of dust and let it slip through her fingers. Her eyes narrowed. The sand here wasn't normal. It was softer. Warm. Too warm. She tapped Max on the arm and pointed at the ground. Then pressed a finger to her lips. He understood. Danger close. Suddenly, a soft rumble passed beneath their feet. Then silence. Max raised his rifle and froze. Zara didn't move. Then Dash cracked the sand to their right, split open as a long tendril shot out, grabbing a lizard-like creature that had wandered too close. The tendril yanked it underground in one swift pull. Gone. Max single quotes as heart pounded. They're hunting. He turned to Zara. We move slow, one step at a time. They began to cross the field carefully. Step, wait, step, wait. Each movement was calculated. Each breath quiet. The stars above were the only witnesses to the deadly dance below. Halfway across the zone, Max stepped on a hard surface. Metal. He looked down. A buried wreck. Part of a ship. Zara touched it too. Her eyes widened. Then they heard it, a deep, low growl vibrating through the ground. The metal beneath them trembled. "Move!" Max whispered harshly, but it was too late. A massive sand beast erupted directly beneath the metal plate, throwing both of them into the air. Max hit the ground hard, rolling. Zara screamed as she tumbled down the dune. The beast, twice as big as the last, roared, its body covered in scars and old tech cables. Its mouth opened, flashing rows of teeth. Max scrambled to his feet and fired shot after shot, but the beast was fast. Too fast. It rushed toward Zara. She couldn't run. Her leg gave out. She fell on her back, watching the jaws come closer. Max dropped his rifle and pulled a grenade from his belt. "Hey!" he shouted. The creature paused, turning toward him. Max threw the grenade directly into its open mouth. Boom! The blast rocked the desert, sending sand flying in all directions. The beast roared in pain and rage, rearing up and collapsed sideways with a loud thud. Dead. Again. Dox rushed to Zara's side. "Are you okay?" She nodded, trembling. He helped her sit up, brushing sand from her face. Then something caught his eye, a small blinking light near the buried wreck. He walked toward it, cleared off the sand, and found a panel. "Still powered. Emergency beacon," he muttered. "Still alive. After all these years?" He pressed a button. The screen lit up faintly. "Survivor mode activated. Signal boost in 12 hours. Max exhaled. "It's a boost relay. If it powers up, it can strengthen the tower signal." He turned back to Zara. "We just need to hold this spot for 12 hours. They dragged a few old metal plates into a half circle around the beacon, forming a small barricade. Max placed motion sensors in the sand nearby. Small, old devices, but better than nothing. Zara sat beside him, her hands wrapped around a warm light module they'd found inside the wreck. She looked at the stars, then at him. Her voice was soft. "Why? Save me?" Max blinked. She had spoken human words, broken, hesitant, but real. He stared at her, surprised. You understand?" She tapped her head gently. "Healer. Listen. Learn." Then she asked again, more clearly, "Why save me?" Max looked at the fire, then at her glowing eyes. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe because you were screaming, alone, like I was." She didn't respond, but her hand reached out slowly and touched his. That night, the wind returned. The sky howled, and the sand beat against their shelter. Max stayed awake, guarding the beacon, rifle in hand. The motion sensors blinked twice, then went still. False alarm. Xar slept beside him, breathing slow. For the first time since the crash, Max didn't feel alone, and as the sun began to rise over the desert, the beacon flashed. Boost. Signal ready. They were one step closer to calling for help. Asterisk. The rising sun painted the sky with fire. Max Keller wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the emergency beacon. The old screen blinked steadily. Signal boost ready. Transmission. Window. 20 minutes 20 minutes to send a message. One chance. Maybe the only one. He adjusted the antenna and hooked his wrist into the panel. "Come on, baby. Hold together." Zara stood nearby, her white hair glowing softly in the light. Her hands were wrapped around a cracked ration pack. She watched Max work with quiet focus. "Help. Come?" she asked in broken English. Max looked back at her, surprised. She had been trying harder since last night. He nodded slowly. "If we're lucky, yes." He tapped a button. The screen flashed. "Send emergency transmission?" Yes and no. Max selected yes and spoke into the com. "This is Sergeant Max Keller, Earth Recon. I'm stranded on Elaris 9. One survivor with me? Location marked. Hostile creatures present. Request immediate evac or drone rescue. Repeat. Immediate extraction needed. The screen beeped. Transmitting. They waited. Each second dragged. Then, transmission SENT boost complete. Battery. CRITICL. The panel powered down with a soft hum. Max exhaled and sat down beside Zara. "It's done," he said. "Now we wait." They found shade under the wreckage. Max dug a shallow trench and used the metal plates as cover from the sun. Zara sat beside him, drinking from a water pouch. She looked at him with a question in her eyes. "Your people? They come?" Max shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. But if they got the message, someone will come." He handed her a small screen from his gear bag. It displayed a photo, a frozen moment of Earth, green forests, a lake, a blue sky. Zara stared in awe. "Your world?" Max smiled. "Yeah, home." She ran her fingers over the screen. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Then she looked up at him. "Why here?" Max sighed. "We were scouting, looking for resources. Alaris 9 had signals, maybe tech energy. Then the storm hit. My team crashed. I don't know if they're alive." Zara's face softened. "My village. Gone. Fire came from sky. Then monsters." They sat in silence, two survivors in the middle of a dead world. Suddenly, Max's motion. Sensor blinked. Once. Twice. 3 times. Too fast. Max jumped up, grabbing his rifle. "Something's coming." They climbed to higher ground and scanned the sand below. In the distance, dark shapes moved across the dunes, dozens of them. Max's jaw clenched. They're hunting again. The largest of the creatures, easily 5 times the size of the first, rose from the sand with a rumble that shook the ground. It had dark spikes along its back and glowing yellow scars from past battles. Zara gasped. "Ancient One." She had heard legends of this beast, the king of the sand. Max turned to her. "Run." But Zara didn't move. She stared at the creature. With frozen terror, he grabbed her hand. "We need high ground." They ran toward a nearby rock spire, the only solid structure for miles. Behind them, the sand cracked and lifted as the beast charged. At the top of the rock, Max set up his last. 3 grenades in a line. "Trap. When it gets close, I'll blow the ridge. Might bury it." Zara looked at him with fear. "You die?" He shook his head. "Not if I time it right." She grabbed his arm. "No, we run. Together." He paused, then nodded. "Okay." The creature reached the base of the spire. It sniffed. Roared. Climbed. Max waited. The grenades were set. The beast lifted its massive head over the edge. Boom. Max triggered all 3 at once. The blast shook the rock. Dust exploded. Pieces of the cliff collapsed on the creature. The beast screamed, tumbling down the slope, and a wave of broken stone and sand. Silence followed. Then the ground stopped moving. Max coughed through the dust. "Did it work?" Zara peeked over the edge. The creature was buried, its massive tail twitching once, then going still. She turned to Max, eyes wide. "You killed it." Max sat back, out of breath. "Yeah, but more might come." Night fell. Quickly, they returned to the beacon and waited, staring at the sky. No ships. No lights. Just stars. Zara looked sad. "They not come?" Max tried to stay hopeful. "Takes time." He checked his last flare and launched it high. A bright red signal lit up the sky. They waited. Then on the horizon, a bright reason 7. Tiny light blinked once. Then again. It moved, faster, toward them. Max stood up, heart racing. Rescue. But then his smile faded. The light was too low. Too fast. Wrong shape. It wasn't a ship. It was something else. Asterisk. The blinking light moved fast, too fast, and it wasn't flying. It skimmed low over the sand, kicking up dust in its wake. Max Keller raised his rifle, his eyes narrowing. That's not a rescue ship. Zara stood beside him, her body stiff, eyes wide. The shape grew closer. It was large, round, and floated. A few feet above the ground, an old alien hovercraft, its engines humming with power. Symbols glowed on its side in a language Max didn't understand, but Zara did. She took a step forward. Skybringer, she whispered. Max glanced at her. Friend or enemy? Her answer was soft but clear. Danger. The craft came to a stop 30 meters away. Sand blew in every direction. A ramp opened underneath with a deep metallic clang. From the shadows inside, something stepped out. Not human, not beast, but tall, armored, and alien, its skin smooth like stone, eyes glowing green, and a long weapon slung across its back. Zara whispered, Ancients. Not dead. Max's grip tightened on his rifle. Great, another problem. 3 of the armored aliens stepped out, spreading into a formation. They didn't rush. They moved with calm, practiced steps like warriors expecting no threat. Leader raised his hand and pointed directly at Max. Then he spoke in deep, echoing tones. Zara stepped forward and replied in her own language. Her words were fast, sharp, angry. The alien tilted his head, then slowly raised his weapon. Max stepped in front of her. I don't know what you said, buddy, but if you aim that at her again, we're gonna have a problem. The alien paused. Then fired. The blast hit the ground near Max's feet, tossing sand into the air. Max dove, rolled and returned fire, his plasma shot striking the side of the hovercraft, burning a mark but doing little damage. Zara ducked behind a metal plate from the old wreck, shouting in her native tongue. She was trying to reason with them. It didn't work. The aliens opened fire. Max pulled Zara back toward the rocks, returning fire as they ran. He hit one alien in the chest. Its armor cracked, and it staggered, but they were strong. And fast. Fall. Back, Max shouted. They slid down a slope into a shallow ravine, hidden for the moment. Zara's eyes were wet with panic. They want the beast. Max blinked. What beast? She pointed back toward the sand dune where the giant creature lay buried. That beast, not wild. They made it. Max stared at her. You're telling me those things created the sand monsters? Zara nodded. Long ago, for war. They lost control. Beast eat all. Now they come. Take it back. Max leaned against the wall, breathing hard. It all made sense. The scars on the creature. The tech cables fused to its flesh. It wasn't born, it was engineered. The aliens weren't here to rescue anyone. They were here to clean up their old mess, or cover it. Damn it, Max muttered. We're in the middle of their secret. Suddenly, one of the alien soldiers dropped into the ravine, landing hard. Max tackled him before he could raise his weapon. They rolled across the sand, punching, kicking, struggling. The alien was strong, but Max was desperate. With a grunt, Max slammed his elbow into the alien's throat, then pulled a knife from his belt and drove it between the armor plates at its side. The alien gasped and went still. Max rolled off, coughing, hands shaking. Zara rushed over. The dead alien's weapon lay nearby. Max picked it up. Let's see how they like their own toys. They waited for dark. The alien hovercraft sat like a sleeping beast, glowing softly under the stars. Max and Zara circled around quietly, staying low, using the rocks as cover. I'm going in, Max whispered. You stay here. Zara grabbed his arm. No, I go too. He shook his head. It's too dangerous. But she was firm. Together. Max stared at her and saw the fire in her eyes. He nodded once. They crept toward the craft. Max held the alien weapon close, moving with practiced stealth. 2 guards stood near the ramp. Max took aim and fired. The alien weapon let out a pulse of green energy, striking both targets before they could react. Their bodies dropped without a sound. They ran inside. The interior was strange smooth metal. Glowing blue lines and strange machines lining the walls. At the center was a control pod lit up and pulsing. Zara looked around. Core. Controls. Beasts. Max's eyes widened. They're still connected? She nodded. He aimed the alien weapon at the core. Then it ends now. He fired. The control pod exploded in a burst of light and sparks. The hovercraft shook violently, and a deep rumble rolled across the desert. Far away, the buried beast roared, its body reacting. Spasming underground, the connection had been cut. Max and Zara ran from the ship as smoke poured out of its sides. The surviving aliens shouted behind them, confused, disorganized. A second later, the buried creature tore free from the sand, angry. Uncontrolled. It turned not toward Max and Zara, but toward its creators. The aliens screamed as the beast charged. There was no time to watch. Max and Zara kept running, toward the cliffs, toward the tower, toward their only chance of escape. Asterisk. Desert was no longer silent. The ground trembled with every step of the massive beast that had broken free. Its roar echoed through the canyons, a sound filled with pain, rage, and confusion. Flames burst from the half-destroyed hovercraft behind it, and the sky was thick with smoke. Max Keller didn't stop running. Neither did Zara. They had no time to look back. The creature had turned on its creators, crushing the armored aliens like dry leaves. But it wouldn't stop there. The link that once controlled it was destroyed. Now it was free and wild. And everything in its path would suffer. We're close, Max shouted, pointing to the jagged cliffs ahead. There, hidden between two stone ridges, stood the tower, thin, rusted, and tall. It reached into the sky like a broken finger. Solar panels at the top caught the morning light. Antennas poked outward, some bent, some sparking. It wasn't much, but it was something. Can it talk to your people? Zara asked. Max nodded. If I can get the signal. Working, yeah. She gripped his arm. Then run faster. They pushed up the slope, using the last of their strength. As they reached the base of the tower, Max threw his rifle down and started climbing a narrow ladder up the side. Zara stayed below, her eyes scanning the horizon. In the distance, the massive creature smashed through a hill of stone, its mouth dripping with sand and dark fluid. It roared and started toward the tower. Max reached the top. The control panel was half dead. Old wires hung loose. Solar panels were dirty, but still absorbing power. He yanked open the panel and connected his wrist. Come on. Please work, he muttered. A faint green light blinked. Signal online, range limited, boost and progress. He spoke into the com. This is Sergeant Max Keller. Emergency repeat signal. 2 survivors at Tower Alpha 9. Request immediate evac. Coordinates uploaded. Hostile threat nearby. Urgent, please respond. He hit send. Down below, Zara saw the beast charging. It had spotted the tower. Her heart pounded. She picked up Max's rifle. It was almost empty, but she raised it anyway. You stay back, she whispered to herself. You don't touch him. Max stared at the blinking signal light. Transmission sent. Received response PND&G. Then the screen flashed. EVAC en route ETA 22 MINUTS. Max shouted down. They heard me. Help is coming. Zara didn't answer. He looked over the edge and froze. The creature was nearly upon them. Zara stood alone at the base of the tower, rifle raised. The beast roared, and she screamed back, not in fear, but defiance. She fired once, twice. The shots hit its eye, making it flinch. Then it charged. Max slid down the ladder fast. Zara, run! She turned and ran toward him, but too late. The beast slammed the tower base with its body. The ground shook violently. The tower tilted with a loud metal groan. Max caught Zara in his arms. Just as the shockwave hit, they rolled across the sand as the tower began to collapse. Boom! The antenna exploded into sparks. Half the tower crumpled to the ground. Max sat up, coughing. The signal didn't finish. Zara looked at the smoke-filled sky. You said 22 minutes. Max stood, helping her up. Then we just have to stay alive until then. They turned and the beast was already recovering, wounded, bleeding. But angry. Max looked around. There's no cover. He reached into his pack. One last weapon, a beacon flare. But this one wasn't for help. It was a tracker for guiding a drop pod. He handed it to Zara. Run that as far away from me as you can, he said. She shook her head. No, please. It will follow the flare. I'll buy us time. When the ship comes, get on it. I won't leave you, she said, eyes wet. Max smiled gently. You won't. I'll be right behind. He didn't know if that was true. Zara ran across the sand, the flare in hand. The creature sniffed the air and turned toward her. She threw the flare as hard as she could. It bounced and rolled, flashing red. The beast chased it. Max waited behind a broken piece of the tower, holding the alien weapon he'd kept since the hovercraft attack. When the creature got close, he stood and fired again and again, screaming, drawing its attention away from Zara. Come on, he shouted. Come and get me. Above them, the clouds began to shift. A flash. Then a loud sonic boom. A sleek rescue shuttle broke through the sky. Roaring toward the surface. It dropped fast, kicking up a wave of sand. Zara turned, eyes wide with hope. Max saw it too. The creature roared at the sky, confused. The shuttle opened its ramp mid-air. A voice crackled over Max's comm. Sergeant Keller. We see you. Get on board. Max turned to Zara. Go. She hesitated. Then ran. The shuttle hovered low. Zara jumped onto the ramp. A soldier inside pulled her in. Max fired one last shot at the creature, then sprinted toward the ramp. The beast roared and gave chase. Max leaped, and the shuttle lifted just in time. The creature's jaws snapped shut a meter below him. Max rolled into the cabin, breathing hard. Zara grabbed his hand and held it tight. He looked at her, smiling through the pain. We made it. She nodded, eyes full of light. Together. As the shuttle rose into the sky, leaving the desert behind, they watched the beast vanish into the dust, free again. But they had survived. And now, they were going home. Asterisk the stars outside the shuttle. Window looked peaceful, like tiny lights guiding the way home. Inside the ship, Max Keller sat quietly, his body strapped to a seat, bruised and exhausted. Across from him, Zara sat wrapped in a thermal blanket, her violet skin stained with dust, her silver eyes watching every detail around her. For the first time in days, they were warm, safe. Alive. A medic moved down the cabin, checking vitals. He paused beside Max. You're lucky we picked up that signal. Could have been lost forever out there. Max gave a weak smile. Yeah, feels like I was. The medic glanced at Zara. Is she one of theirs? She's with me, Max said firmly. The medic nodded and moved on. The shuttle exited Alaris 9's atmosphere and drifted into orbit. Far below, the desert planet faded behind thick clouds and swirling sandstorms. Zara leaned closer to the window, eyes wide. Is this space? Max nodded. Yup, nothing but stars and silence. She reached out as if she could touch the stars through the glass. Then she looked at him. You not leave me? He raised an eyebrow. Of course not. You save, again, and again. Max chuckled softly, and you kept me alive too. We're a good team. She smiled, a real one this time. They arrived at the orbital station within the hour. It was huge, full of white corridors, glowing lights, and the hum of machines. Human soldiers and scientists rushed around, scanning the shuttle, checking data, treating wounds. Max and Zara were taken to a deep room, playing quiet safe. A commanding officer entered, Colonel Briggs. Older, gray-haired, sharp eyes. He stared at Max. "You did well, Sergeant. We lost contact with your team 6 days ago. We thought the worst." Max stood. "They're gone. Crashed. I was the only one left." The colonel nodded. "We received your message. You mentioned a creature?" "Not just a creature," Max said. "A bioengineered monster. Built by some ancient alien species. Still alive. Still hunting." He turned toward Zara. "She can explain more. She knows things we don't." The colonel looked at her. "Does she speak?" Zara stood, nervous. "Not all words. But I'd try." Her voice was shaky, but her eyes were clear. "She saved my life," Max added. "More than once." Briggs folded his arms. "We'll want to learn more from her. Maybe even help her people if they're still out there." Zara looked down. "I only one." The room fell quiet. Max placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then she's not alone anymore." Later, Max sat in a medical bay, arm bandaged, breathing easier. Zara sat nearby, watching the lights on the ceiling. They were both given temporary rest quarters side by side. She asked quietly, "What now?" Max leaned back. "I don't know. They'll probably ask me to debrief again. Maybe send me on another mission." She looked away. "But," he continued, "I don't have to say yes." She turned back, hopeful. "I was thinking, maybe I take a break. Show someone what Earth looks like." Zara blinked. "Earth?" Max nodded. "Blue skies. Big trees. Rain. Music. Things that aren't trying to kill us every hour." Her smile returned. "Will they allow?" she asked. Max grinned. "I saved you. They owe me." 2 weeks later, a transport ship prepared to depart the orbital station, its destination, Earth. On board was Max Keller, clean-shaven now, in a simple jacket, and beside him, Zara, dressed in a light scarf and clothing stitched by hand from the stations. Fabric stores. Her eyes sparkled as the ship prepared to jump. She reached for Max's hand. He took it. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, home?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Let's find you one." As the ship vanished into the stars, the galaxy kept spinning. Back on Alaris 9, the sandstorm raged. Buried beneath rock and ash, the remains of the great beast lay still. But far beneath, in a dark chamber untouched by light, another eye blinked open. The ancient secrets were not all destroyed. But for now, one human and one alien had escaped. Together. And somewhere out there, under a blue sky, a new story would begin.